name is Richard Baer. I'm a professor of pathology and cell biology at Columbia University in Manhattan. And for the last, say, 30 odd years, we've been studying cancer development, most recently breast cancer and some of the genes that predispose, when mutated, women to breast cancer. That is BRCA1 and sort of its cousin, BRCA2.
So we're really going to focus on some of the aspects of mentoring, and
Right.
both sort of at the undergraduate and at the graduate level. But maybe you can just talk a little bit about how you got into research at Rutgers when you were an undergraduate, and then how you then went on to do your graduate work here as well.
Yeah, I mean, I arrived at Rutgers over 50 years ago as a clueless undergraduate in 1971. And we had a lot of friends in the dorm, and one of my friends was a senior, and he had a job washing glassware in the medical school tower. And since he was graduating, he brought me up there and introduced me to Dr. Donald Dubin, who was a professor of microbiology at the time. And they gave me the job. So I spent another year or so washing glassware several times a week for pocket change. And then at one point they said, well, maybe you could do something a little more technical. And they began teaching me basic techniques in research. And so I did that as I continued with my degree. I got my degree in biological sciences in 75 or 76. And during that time, I was so enamored with what we were doing in Dr. Dubin's laboratory that I decided that I would want to continue that for myself, because I hadn't really cottoned on to exactly what I was going to do with my life. But that set me up. And so I asked Dr. Dubin, and he said I could be a graduate student in his laboratory in the Department of Microbiology, which was a very big department at Rutgers, a very famous department, actually. And so this was a real opportunity for me. One day, actually, Dr. Dubin came to me just as I was near wrapping up and said, well, would you like to do postdoctoral training in England with somebody called Frederick Sanger? I knew the name. He had been awarded the Nobel Prize in 1958. And after that, he designed most of the methodologies that were used subsequently for both first RNA sequencing and DNA sequencing. And we were using many of those methods in Dr. Dubin's lab. So this sounded outrageous to me. I said, well, sure, go ahead. And I completely forgot about it. 2 months later, he comes in and says, you got the position.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so this was the training I got, it was Dr. Dubin as well as the people on my committee who really prepared me very well for this career that began, in a sense, with my moving into Frederick Sanger's laboratory and subsequently picking up in cancer research.
So it sounds like Dr. Dubin was really a really strong mentor if he was thinking about where you should go after his lab.
Yes, he was exactly that. He was a splendid mentor throughout that time, because remember, I was in the lab for several years before doing the degree. And actually, it was kind of like that across the board. It was a great environment for me to learn. And what I can say is it was not only Dr. Dubin, but the other faculty were also extremely caring in terms of the students, how they progressed and how their careers continued.
What do you feel are some of the most important qualities of a mentor for a student, like tangible and intangible?
Yes, right. Well, I mean, the tangible might be the type of research they're doing.
Right.
I actually, my feeling is that all science, when you get down to the nuts and bolts, is fascinating. So, you may be interested in cancer,
Absolutely.
you may be interested in fish,
Right.
whatever. Once you dive into it, so I'm a little. So I would almost advise, and other people would say something different, that you do look for a lab where you think you'll fit in, where you think you'll do well with the mentor.
What were the strengths that you felt like were at Rutgers when you were there? I mean,
Well,
you've sort of touched on a lot. You said this microbiology program was huge and
Yeah.
really prestigious.
Yeah.
And the mentors were good, but anything else that comes to mind?
I think those were the biggest things. I felt at home within the smallish microbiology kind of subunit that we had in the medical school. The work they were doing was fabulous. And then within the larger, the Waxman, Littman, it was a whole spectrum of great microbiologists who preceded our generation.
Right.
And Rutgers has kept that up. And but that was a big influence. I mean, I used to go, I was on the 7th floor, I was an undergraduate, I'd walk around and I would look out and I would see the Waxman building. And I would think, well, that's streptomyces.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And
exactly.
it just had a real
Yeah.
historical sense to me.